Hello and welcome to the Work of Thy Hands podcast, where we interview Christian creatives, conversing on the ways they have seen their creative projects as co-creative efforts with Christ. I'm your host, Allison Ramirez, and owner of Trinity Publishing. And today I'm thrilled to be welcoming our next guest to the podcast, Emily Ann. Emily desires to tell compelling historical fiction through a biblical world view. So, hi, Emily. Great to have you on today.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. So, biblical historical fiction is what you enjoy writing. Tell me a bit about yourself, how you got into writing, what you're working on.
Yeah, so my name is Emily Ann. I am a stay-at-home homeschool mom first, and then this writing adventure snuck up on me over the last, I would say, maybe year and a half. I really enjoyed writing back when I was a teenager before college and kids and marriage and, life happened. And I got away for it for a little bit. But now that my kids are at the age where they can play by themselves for little periods of time, I've gotten back into it. I've just really enjoyed it. I have my first book out, which is called If I Go. And it's a historical fiction around the Civil War. And it tackles the perspective of both sides of the American Civil War. And then I released a fall anthology with some other lovely authors called Fall Through Time. In that story, I dove into like Appalachian culture right after World War One. And then I'm currently working towards publishing my second book called Where I Stand, and that is a historical fiction based in Charleston right around World War One. So I really enjoy writing about time periods and from perspectives that aren't often covered. I like it because it challenges me to do more research. I know that America was not involved in World War One for very long. I enjoyed researching and learning new things about our involvement in World War One and, tying all that into my stories. That's that's where I'm at in this writing journey right now.
Yes. So you said your first book, which is already published, is called If I Go. Is that right?
Yeah, it's called If I Go. Yeah. It follows a girl who actually lived in the South during the Civil War. And then her childhood best friend moves to the North because of political differences and then fights for the Union. And so it comes to a head when they meet. She's a nurse for the Confederacy and he's a Union soldier, and they meet and fall in love. But then also there's a reckoning of different perspectives and all that. And so
Wow. Yeah, because Jessica, your friend that we were talking before we started recording, her book, I just recently finished it, Perpetual Rainbows, was on the American Revolution, and yours is the Civil War.
Yeah,
So,
she did such a great job with that book. It's so hard to find good Revolutionary War fiction, and because she ties in so many prominent historical figures in her book, it was very cool for me just to recognize these figures that I've heard about
hmm
and how she pulled them into her story. I thought it was very compelling.
exactly. I remember, yeah, she had George Washington that had a couple scenes in the book. And that's true because you learn about US history in school, but it's usually just history books, more just
Yeah,
factual. So it's nice to be able to read a fictional account as well.
yeah, for sure.
Characters
Yeah.
trying to live out their faith and navigate the intricacies of the time period and the things that are
Yeah.
happening. So tell me, how did you get back into writing? Because it sounds like you always were someone who enjoyed writing, and then life happened, and then now you have this book out. So what did that process look like? If you starting
Yeah.
to write again and then realizing you had a full book and you wanted to publish?
So my first book, If I Go, I did a very rough first draft when I was 17 because this book takes place in Charleston and I grew up in Charleston and
Mm-hmm.
that's where the first shots of the Civil War were fired. And so I grew up going to all these historical places and
Yes.
it really just came to life for me as a 17-year-old. And so I had this story in the back of my mind and I had written such a rough draft of it. And then it's so hard like once you become a mother to like find like time for you and like to do like your own hobbies because so much of what we do is, pouring into our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so with my husband's a police officer, and so a lot of times in the evenings, like he works at night, and then I would put the kids to bed, and it would just be me. And you can
Yeah.
watch shows and read books, but after a while, I kind of was thinking like, maybe I should try to rewrite that book, and see
Hmm.
if I could, now that I have had more education and life experience, maybe the final result will be at least hopefully a little bit better. Um, and once I started, it just opened up this world of creativity for me. And it's really become my own little hobby over here.
Hmm.
And it's cool that I can share the story with other people.
Yeah. I love that you returned to a book that you had started in high school. That's what I did with my first fiction book as well.
Yeah.
The Divided Kingdom is the title, and it's like sci-fi dystopian. But
Okay.
I wrote it like over 8th grade to like 12th grade, and then had these big dreams to publish it. At that time, it was not ready to be published. I think I was more excited that I had wrote like a
Yeah.
60 or 70,000 word book, and then it was probably 6 years later or so, maybe, that I revisited it and
Yeah.
rewrote a lot of it.
Is to come back to a book, you just see it through a totally different viewpoint. Because when you're in it for so long, and especially if you've had all these years of life experience, like when you revisit it later, it's so encouraging because you see the good stuff and then you see the stuff that doesn't need to be there.
Mhm.
But then I think it does wonders to a creative project to leave it for a little bit and then come back to it, because you like it has always worked out to have that break, especially if something's not working.
Definitely. Yeah, I have found that to be the case too. And the story ended up, the main characters were the same, but the whole plot, even the setting, changed from when
Yeah,
I wrote
that's how
it.
it goes.
But I held on to the characters because that was my motivation. Was I really liked my two main characters I
Yeah.
had. I'd love to hear about the process of publishing if I go,
Hmm.
because just felt like you wanted to get back into writing. You revisited this old story. At what point were you like, you know what, I actually want to publish this book? And then how did
Yeah.
you pick the direction you wanted to go with that?
Yeah. So I didn't set out to publish it. I was like, I just want this to be rewritten for me, because I think that I could do better. So it was more of a challenge and a way to pass the time in those evenings when I was by myself. And then once I finished it, I was like, wow, I'm proud of this. And I think other people might like it. And so I did try to do the traditional publishing route for maybe 4 or 5 months. I was very impatient. I did have one publishing company who was interested, but it just didn't feel like the right fit for me. And because I had already designed the cover by myself, I had gone through all this editing process. I was like, you know what? It might make more sense to be published it independently. And I'm so glad I did, because I think it really gave me the freedom to make it exactly how I wanted it and have total control over the marketing process. And it worked well for my personality.
Mhm.
To go indie. I know some people, they work on it and they're like, I want somebody else to handle this, like the writing part. But for me, I enjoy the marketing aspect. I enjoy the cover design and even the process of proofreading. It's something that I enjoy, so it made sense for me to do that route.
My story sounds so similar as you're like describing yours, because I also wanted to traditionally publish because at the time that was really what I knew about or had
Mhm.
heard of, going through an actual established book publishing company. That was with my debut nonfiction book, which is on the Rosary. I queried all these places and either just got rejection letters or never heard back. And then you're like, well, you're either gonna just give up or you have to
Yeah.
self-publish. Yeah, I've loved self-publishing. I really liked the creative freedom.
Yeah.
And yeah, you do have to, put more upfront, money to pay for the people you're
Mhm.
hiring to help you. But then I felt like I was supporting like,
Yeah.
freelancers, like because when you traditionally publish, you're supporting people that are employed already by the publishing company. But these were
Hmm.
people that had a passion for, yeah, cover design or formatting or editing. And so I liked that I was able to support them, and then they
Yeah.
supported me, and we're like, I still got that community element because I know a lot of authors are like, oh, I like being on a team with my traditional publishing
Absolutely. Yeah.
team. But I feel like you can still get that with self-publishing too.
Well, I would say even the process of publishing has changed so much, even in the last 10 years, because things are a lot more available to us, these different programs, and just the ability to connect with people who are willing to share their talents. I don't think 20, 30 years ago, it was way harder to publish a book yourself, but now like it almost is the more logical route, I would say, for most people because technology and social media has eliminated a lot of the hurdles that most authors had faced before.
Exactly. And I've heard people say that in terms of how many books you actually sell, they were saying it wasn't that vastly different from a traditional publisher, just because the traditional publisher already wants you to help them with the marketing, like
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a platform. So you're like,
Hmm.
well, I would have to have a platform anyway, regardless
Exactly.
of which path I went down. And the traditional publisher is publishing on these same platforms, Amazon KDP
Exactly. Yeah.
or Ingram
It's
Spark.
like the same process, but then they're going to take more of it. It's like,
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I know. So, and I mean, when I started in this 5 years ago, I just learned on YouTube. There was YouTubers that were full-time authors and creators, and they were walking you through step by step the process. So I think it's easier to learn it than people think.
hmm
'Cause I remember thinking, oh, wow, like there's
yeah,
probably so much that goes into this. How am I gonna know
yeah.
everything I need to do?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
definitely not without hiccups, but it
sure.
is there's just so many avenues to learn how to do this. I think I mostly learned everything through Instagram and just seeing what other
Mhm.
authors were doing and then messaging them and asking questions about how they
Yeah.
went about it.
Well, how did you get connected with Jessica? Because you mentioned that you guys worked together on another book, like
Yeah,
a collection
we
of stories, right?
yeah, so we both worked on Fall Through Time together with two other authors, Eva
Okay.
Cedarland and Shania Wren. We connected pretty early on. I only got on social media to do this book stuff pretty much exactly a year ago. And she was one of the first people who I connected with, I think because we both enjoy historical fiction and we're both looking at it from a biblical worldview.
Mhm.
And so that was just an automatic bonding point for us. And we were also both redheads. So that was immediate. Oh my gosh, we had all these things in common. She's got a son kind of close to my son's age. We just clicked. And I think that we both have similar writing styles. It felt like we were, um, I don't know, just so similar. It just,
Yeah.
we connected so quickly.
So then how did you decide to work together on the Falling Through Time collection?
Yeah, so yeah, I think it was closely after she had published her book Perpetual Rainbows, and I I was still working on the second book, which is coming out in February. But I needed a break because I was like getting really bad writer's block, and I was like, it would be so cool to write a fall anthology, like a historical fiction fall anthology. And so I just asked her, I was like, is this something that you would be interested in? And immediately she was like, yeah, let's do it. So we found the other two authors who were very much also in line with the things that we were. And it was very straightforward and it was a very fun and easy process. It was pretty, I would say, organic in the way that it came about.
That's really neat because in the back of my head, I've always wanted to work on a combined project with other authors. Actually, when I first was writing my fiction book, The Divided Kingdom, I had one of my good friends and I said, we should write this together. And we did a bunch of brainstorming and everything. And then eventually she ended up not continuing on with it because she
Mm-hmm.
had other interests and it became more my thing. But ever since then, I was like, oh, that'd be so cool because then you can support one another in the marketing of it.
Yeah.
And if you're writing a short story, usually you can't just publish a short story, but you can publish a collection of stories.
hmm Yeah. Well, and it was super fun for me because, like, Eva Cedarland, one of the other authors in the story, she is I believe she's in Mexico. And then Shania Wren is in Canada. And then obviously Jessica is in the Northeast and I'm in the Southeast. And so it was very cool to span all of North America basically and
Mhm.
tackle different stories. But it's also very encouraging to, like you were saying, like bounce ideas off of each other. I definitely loved and enjoyed like the proofreading process because to have other authors that you respect read your work and know that they can give you feedback and not like have it be insulting because it's like a
Mhm.
project that you're working on together. Educational because I got to see their perspectives and their feedback, and I very much appreciated that. Yeah, it was a very very fun thing to do. I would love to do another one. It is a lot of work, and if we did another one, we would start it way earlier because we didn't even start writing this until August, and it released in October. So we literally threw the whole thing together in like 2.
Wow.
So like that was kind of a insane thing to do. I don't know why we chose to. It was mostly me driving it forward. It was probably foolish, but yeah, if I were to do another one, I would give myself a lot more time.
Yes, that's so cool. I'll have to check out both of those books, Falling Through Time and Before I Go. Well, tell me a bit about the biblical themes in the book. A big part of the podcast is I love to hear the faith elements, like how you decide on what you want to include and how you feel that the Lord is working with you on your writing.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. The more that I've cove into this writing venture, how does it help sanctify you? Your creative writing journey. And it's been so fun for me because the first book, If I Go, it's a 3-part series called Valiant Devotion. And when I first started writing the series, I saw it from a wartime love aspect of how
Mm-hmm.
do we stay heroic and noble and still love at the same time, and what does that look like through different wars and different challenges. And so in my first book, it's very much in a Christian worldview in the sense of they pray, they go to church, they rely on hymns to get them through tough periods of time. And then I'm working on the third book now, and it's been very, very spiritual for me in the sense of I've seen God show me through writing these books, Valiant Devotion, like the ultimate model of devotion is Christ. So I've slowly been weaving that in through this series because, human love is always going to fall short. It's not ever
Mm-hmm.
going to be absolutely perfect. And so I've been working towards that through this series, highlighting that the ultimate person who is going to be devoted to us and never let us down is Christ.
I love that. And I love that you found a theme,
Mm-hmm.
that theme of devotion, it sounds like, that
Mm-hmm.
carries through the series as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that that probably creates a lot more opportunities because you're not locked into, well, I have to have this one element or this one thing, but it's just a theme that can
Mm-hmm.
show up in a lot of different ways. That's like my fiction series. The theme I have is wanting to be seen,
Okay.
wanting to be seen and known. And that's multiple characters. That's part of their story arc is why don't they feel seen? How
Mm-hmm.
do they want to be seen? What does that mean? And then ultimately leads them to being seen by God. He's the one that really
Yeah.
knows you fully and really sees you for who you are, even if others don't recognize you or your value. A theme of devotion that carried through. Well, what else inspired you in your writing? If you want to share people that inspire you or things in life that inspire you in your writing or help with your creativity.
Yeah, I tell people like a heavy inspiration for me was the American Girl books. I just
Oh.
loved the American Girl books and the Dear America books. The way that I saw like their struggle and their challenges paralleled with like different historical moments was
Mhm.
just, it captured me obviously from a very young age.
Yeah.
And so that has kept with me through my writing journey. The same idea of seeing how people, for me, like it always is, a spiritual sense. And I think that's something that not so much the American Girl books, but the Dear America books did well was show the faith aspect. Was that like all throughout history, we can see people relying on God, and that does not change. It's not a new problem. It's something that has gone back from the beginning of time. And so that has always inspired me in my writing.
Mhm. I love that. Yeah, I remember the American Girl dolls. Yeah, and I guess there were books too. I kind of forgot about that, but oh, that's great. And then
Yeah.
that has inspired you in this series that you're working on too.
Mm.
Okay. Do you have any particular resources or groups that you're in,
Yeah.
or people that helped you along the way that you could recommend for others who are looking to go the self-publishing route?
Yeah. So I would say the first thing is to get in contact with other um indie authors who, are a few steps ahead of you in the journey, or at least in the same area as you are, the same time frame towards publishing, because there, I think the most helpful thing for me is to have people alpha read and beta read my books. It is something that I love doing for other people and I really, really enjoy. And I have 2 or 3 people. Jessica is one of them. Shania is another one of the girls who worked on the Fall Through Time with me. And then Erica Memram Sherlock. They have read my stuff and given me feedback. And I think it's so humbling but important to have other people whose work that you do appreciate and respect, have them read your book and give them like the all clear, like you are able to tell me everything you love and hate about this book because I want to grow and I want to get better. So please don't worry about hurting my feelings. Like I need to know what is not working. That for me has been probably the most helpful process of this whole thing, and definitely grown me as an author. When I wrote If I Go, it doesn't follow a typical rise and fall of a book. It's more like a life journey. And not that there's a problem with that, but I understand that you kind of have to be in the book for the long haul. It's not like a satisfaction read, I guess.
Yeah.
And having other authors be like, okay, well, are you asking these questions to your characters and trying to figure out the answers? And what is the overarching theme for this character? And that has grown me tremendously as an author, and it has helped me see my project clearer, see the goal clearer. And yeah, that is 100% because other authors were willing to say, this isn't working, or I really like this, like I want to know more about why they feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
So I would challenge new authors to find a group of people. It doesn't have to be huge. It could just be one person, but just somebody that you can give them the raw version and say, please, like, give me your feedback. And I think that is just tremendously helpful.
I love that, and that relates really well to the advice that you had written in
Oh,
the
yeah,
intake form, because you said having other Christian creatives to bounce ideas around with makes all the difference in the creative process.
it absolutely
So,
does. Yeah.
yeah, I love that you talked more about that because, yeah, writing is really solitary. You
It
even mentioned, your kids go to bed and you're
Mhm.
up writing by yourself, and so having a critique partner or a critique group that gives you that community, and then you have
Mhm.
other people to tell you what's working about the book, what's maybe not working, give you new inspiration, and then you have people to help you spread the word too
Yes,
when the
100%.
book
Yeah.
comes out.
Yeah.
Because that
Yeah.
could be that's like the other half of the battle.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I remember when I published my first book, I hit publish, and then, you see it come on Amazon page,
Mhm.
and I went out to eat, and I was celebrating, and I didn't really do anything else. I think I maybe made one post on Instagram, but I didn't have other people, like, people have a launch team where other people are cross-posting for them, and I didn't have any interviews lined up, I didn't have, like, a release party, like, all those things, that they recommend you do to, like, begin the momentum for the book. It
Yeah.
was like I just was so excited to, like, be a published author, but
Yep.
then you want people to actually buy the book.
Yeah, there's definitely a learning curve to like the advertising aspect. And, that's another side of it. Like you mentioned, having a group of people who are loyal to your writing style and to anything that you put out, and just letting them know that what you're releasing and what your plans are, and so that they can stay up to date. Because I think it's a symbiotic relationship where, you help them because they enjoy reading and they have their own, profiles that they like to share up and coming books, especially in,
Mhm.
the little niche that you are in. But then it helps you because they're spreading the word out. So it definitely is a wonderful relationship too, to have several people. And it's so encouraging too when people do read. I think the hardest part is getting people to read your first project, like your first book, because you don't have anything for any credits at that point.
Mhm.
And so once they read your first project and they like it and they are loyal to you, that is just such a huge win, because then you know that anything that you put out, they're probably going to help spread the word with.
Mhm.
So I think that's important too, building a team of loyal readers. And then, it's huge for them when you offer them the free advanced copy of your book,
Mhm.
because then they get to post about it and tell people about it. And that's why people are going to their pages.
Yep, exactly. Because marketing, it can be this big, I don't wanna say monster to tackle, but,
It
you
is.
feel like you're speaking into the void, so often, and if you have other people that maybe they have a greater online presence than you, or they're writing similar things to you, so their audience might be interested in what you're doing, yeah, it can really help a lot. Determining which platforms you wanna be on too, because I feel like I have bounced back and forth between every all the different ones, and, like,
Yeah,
figuring out, like, where you're getting your most readers, is it on your newsletter? Is it on Insta? Is it on YouTube? Is it TikTok? Is it, wherever that
right. Yeah. I
for you?
unfortunately can't handle more than one avenues, so I only do Instagram because I just mentally cannot. I've thought about, I'm like, should I go on TikTok? But I feel like I'm not the TikTok type of person.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let other people post about it if they want to, but it's easier for me to funnel it through one. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, other people have great success doing it, in different avenues.
I know. Yeah, I feel similarly because I'm usually on like a bunch of them, but this year I really just been focusing on my newsletter. This year my goals I really want to try to grow my author newsletter because yeah, it can get so overwhelming if you're trying to post on so many different platforms,
Yeah.
and then they always say you have to post regularly so that people, you stay up to date and people aren't like writing about you
Yeah.
and what you're
Which is
doing.
hard when you're only probably releasing like one thing every year or two. It's like,
Yeah.
what can I post about? I saw a like a poll and someone was like, if you follow authors, what do you want to see most? And surprisingly, a lot of people were like, I just want to hear about book stuff, like,
Hmm.
lifestyle stuff, like I don't care about. And I'm like, thank goodness, because this is too much for me. I might share part of the editing process or the writing process, but I'm not going to be posting about what I had for breakfast. That's too much
Hmm.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah, book like updates about the books,
Yeah.
or
It's hard to come up
any.
with the content though, still. Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it can be. I know, I've run into that too, where it's like, yeah, I wanna make it interesting. I wanna just share the same thing, like, again and
Mhm.
again each time. But then, like, once you get more books out too, then you have, like, more books, like I have 2 different book series that are, like, totally different.
Mhm.
So I've been promoting my, like, prayer devotional book series because the last book is coming out next month. But
Okay.
then I'll probably switch gears into my fiction series,
Mhm.
promote that for a while, like, have, like, seasons of promoting.
Yeah.
And that's helped me because then I only have to come up with content for, like, half the year for
Oh, okay. Yeah.
each
That does
series.
that works well then.
Mhm. Right. Well, Emily, and it's been great having you on the
Yeah.
podcast,
Thank you for having me.
and I wonder if there's any parting words or any final comments you didn't get to mention that you wanted to share before we close with a closing prayer.
Yeah. I would say the only thing is that my second book, Where I Stand, is releasing February 27th.
Oh.
And that is class divide World War I, Charleston located book. I have the ARC readers reading it right now, and hopefully I can get reviews coming in. That's my next project that's coming out soon.
That's exciting, and that's the sequel then to If I
Yeah,
Go.
well, yeah, so they're standalone stories, but with the same kind of theme.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. And then, okay, February 27th, that's exciting, that's coming up.
it is. Yeah,
Yeah, I know my next book's coming out on the 11th. My last
of
prayer.
January or February.
Oh, February 11th.
Okay, I was like, wow, you're down to the wire.
Yeah, about a month out. So
Okay,
it's
wow, that
exciting.
is exciting.
Well, those of you who are listening, if you want to stay connected with Emily Ann, check the show notes for the links to her Instagram and her email. And definitely check out her next book, which is coming out very soon. So great. Well, I'll close this out with a prayer that's actually for Christian creatives that I like to end the episodes with. Creator of the universe, how infinite and astonishing are your worlds. O divine imagination, you created a creator when you imagined me into existence. Breathe breath into so much dust. Let me lament for forgetting daily to rise up out of the clay. Free me from the deceit of the mundane and from the lure of comfort which dulls all my given edges. Light of my life, forgive my blindness, open my eyes and salt me with newness and dreams. Fire my soul with your inventive flame, and let me be committed to the world by it and find in it the deepest joy. Universal creativity, flow through me, faith to see things not yet seen, hope to overflow broken cisterns, and love to free me forever. Flow, O river, from the holy temple through my mind to my hand, and infuse my work with spirit to feed hungry souls. We pray in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.